Hi, my name's Charlotte.
Hello, I'm Helen.
And I'm Tam.
And we're actors playing the parts of real forestry specialists that were interviewed to make this verbatim play.
A verbatim play uses real words of real people. It's often performed by actors and it's used to explore difficult issues or questions.
In this play, we are exploring the difficult question of how forests and the people who work with forests are adapting to climate change.
Every word in this play comes directly from interviews that were conducted with real forestry people.
Some of the words are spoken by us.
Some of them are spoken by our musician, Simone, who you'll also see playing the cello throughout the play.
And some of them are spoken by other actors who appear in the play either through recorded audio or video. The play is made up of 5 scenes in total. In this scene, which is called Genetic Adaptation and Scientists, Helen, Tam and I all play scientists who were interviewed for the play.
Well, technically we play tree scientists.
Well, technically, we're playing forest geneticists.
Well, and I didn't even know that was a job before we did this play.
No, none of us did.
Yeah, I definitely thought that genetics was to do with humans before we did this play. I didn't even know that trees had genetics.
So in this scene, we're not in a lab, which is where you might expect tree geneticists to work. We're out in a forest.
A theatrical forest.
And the trees in this forest are actually giant carpet rolls covered in recycled fabric.
The fabric on the trees has patterns that look a bit like tree bark.
And some of the fabric represents things like insects that might live on the trees.
And we are all making notes on clipboards because we're observing and measuring the trees.
We're looking for signs of the trees, signs of pests or diseases that might affect how the trees are doing, might negatively impact how the trees are.
Yeah, or we might be looking for signs that the trees are growing well.
At one point, you might be wondering why we're waving the clipboards about and catching confetti. This is because the confetti represents the pollen that comes from the trees and our efforts to measure the pollen.
This scene starts and ends with some recorded voices. We can hear those voices. We don't see who it is that's speaking the words. These are voices of other actors who are playing some of the other real forestry specialists that were interviewed for the play.
Everyone that was interviewed was asked the same set of questions.
The scene starts with the different responses to the question, what 3 words would you use to describe forest?
Which is also where the title of the play comes from.
Three words for forest. Trees. Wildlife. And air. Clean air.
Clean air, calmness and peacefulness, imagination of green.
Fluorescent green and dry, crunchy brown. Texture.
Trees, water, and soil.
Roots growing towards moisture, or nutrients in the soil. Light. Branches moving in the wind.
Noisy. Branches crashing around. Crackling undergrowth.
Getting lost in them.
A habitat from a low level right up to the top of the mountains. A pagan cathedral. Peace. Smell.
Wild. Complex. What would the third one be? Something either about age or size, I think. When you're in the forest, you're surrounded. You're inside something living. It's above you as well as you being above some other part of it. It's something you can explore. You can't see in all directions, but you can move through and find something new at every turn. That kind of sense, I guess.
Long term, productive, multi-purpose, maybe I would say, and timber.
Well, I was going to say lots of trees, but that's really stupid. But now I can't think of anything else. Lots of trees? No, but I mean, it's more than just trees, isn't it? I mean, you can find moss and other plants and insects and animals. It's a habitat, you know? It's a place. I'm an ecological geneticist, which kind of means I'm an ecologist and a geneticist.
I'm a forest geneticist.
We focus on trees mostly, though we do work on other plants, and we study genetics. So both at the DNA level, actually looking at molecular genetics, but also in terms of understanding how those genes are expressed as traits.
As a child, I wanted to work with plants.
In childhood, I was always interested in them and tried to work out what they were. And, well, I suppose that's kind of stuck with me. I still prefer to be outside, being in nature. And, well, I suppose we are dependent on each other. We need the trees.
We need the trees to breathe, you know.
Ah, yes, but do the trees need us?
They need light.
Benign weather conditions.
No massive storms.
The right amount of rainfall at the right time of year.
They need nutrients from the soil.
I think trees could perfectly easily do without humans. But I'm not sure that humans could do without trees, though. I'm interested in species diversity, so genetic diversity, connectivity. I look at plant DNA.
You can look at the DNA of any two individuals and still find differences between them. Even if they're family, they may be siblings, but there will still be slight differences between them.
Not every individual will be able to deal with all of the same things.
So if conditions change, the ones that are best suited to the site may change too.
And these are the ones that will survive and reproduce. That is the strength of natural selection, to bring about differentiation.
The flexibility comes in having lots of different individuals all able to deal with things in slightly different ways.
But there is another factor. How much gene flow in the form of pollen or seeds comes into the population from elsewhere?
You know, if you're a tree, you're fixed to the spot. You don't have the option of wandering off across the landscape if conditions change. You can't go off trying to find a mate. So you have to disperse far and wide. And that's what you see. Every spring in pollen is trees mating. Genes blowing off into the wind, finding another tree of the same species and producing offspring. The key is in allowing the best type to make its way through under its own steam. Ideally, you want something new being recruited every year so that if conditions change, the climate is changing, then you would slowly, in principle, be seeing the population shift.
By stopping that, you're stopping the forests being able to manage themselves.
In many cases, that type of regeneration is not happening for a variety of reasons. One of the main reasons is that there's a huge number of deer.
Roe deer and red deer
and
fallow
red
deer.
red deer, fallow deer.
Tops of mountains devoid of trees.
Because of sheep and deer.
Grey squirrels.
Red deer
Red
and roe
deer
deer
and
and red
red
deer.
Muntjac.
They're hungry.
They have to eat something.
Herbivores.
Herbivores and
grey
deer
squirrels
and
Grey
grey
squirrels.
who graze
Yes.
out, browse out the regenerating seedlings. So you're left with just the standing, steadily aging population that will eventually just die.
So, until you can get the deer under control, regeneration is very difficult.
But then there's also all the pests and diseases.
There are risk registers for every conceivable pest or disease that might arrive.
Ash dieback.
Canker stain,
Ash dieback.
Bleeding canker of horse chestnut.
Ash dieback.
or neonectria canker.
Phytophthora.
Conifer root and butt rot.
Phytophthora.
Red band needle blight.
Phytophthora.
elbow patch crust disease,
Bark beetles.
Weevils.
Bark beetles.
gall wasps,
Bark beetles.
Budworm pests.
Bark beetles.
Nematoda.
so many pests and diseases, all affecting different species of trees.
And those are only the ones that sound good.
Most aren't here yet, but they could arrive, so you know.
So it's very difficult to prepare for that unless you try to stop them coming in the first place.
How even the ones that are here now will react to changes in climate is uncertain.
The levels of management required in the woodlands is also uncertain. And what uses to put the trees and forests to is uncertain.
But what are the practical consequences of the things we find? How do we communicate what we find in our research in a way that's useful to people who are actually managing the trees?
We understand the genetics, and we're trying to demonstrate that within 1 or 2 generations, adaptation can happen. But there is an element of uncertainty to genetic adaptation. So, okay, they probably can adapt, but can they adapt quickly enough under climate change to survive? That is what we are working on now.
We're in a transition from we know what to do to we don't know what to do.
Climate change keeps moving the goalposts, while at the same time you're trying to make decisions.
With the rate of climate change, the urgency is greater than it was in the past. People can't wait 20, 30 years until we've come up with a definitive answer on what to plant.
I'm finding it very, very challenging. How on earth do we set the guidance right? Providing something that's actually useful for people, but at the same time get across the enormous uncertainty.
Different groups tend to have different interests. The different parts of the forestry spectrum, they shout from their own perspectives, rather than coming together. Uncertainty is a real challenge. We don't know exactly what the climate of the future will be. If we did, we'd know exactly what to do.
The big step for us as woodland managers is to internalise, and it's not a very comfortable thing, but to internalise this understanding that we don't know.
I don't like uncertainty in my personal life. Yeah. Uncertainty makes me feel really uncomfortable. But it's quite, well, it's interesting if you think about it from an ecological point of view. Well, it's often the most unpredictable things that are the most interesting things. And I suppose that is true personally as well, actually. Yeah. I guess I guess I think that uncertainty is ultimately quite productive, but it's scary.